Hi everyone, it's Lisa here. I'm back today with a card for you. I thought I would create a little Christmas scene today. I was creating last week and I made this card. Now I'm not going to be making this exact card for you today, but I'm going to take some of the elements from this card and put it into a new card. The reason being that I created this card using a pre-coloured image. I had this image in my stash. I must have coloured it 18 months, 2 years ago. This set has been out for ages, and in fact I don't know if you can still get that, so I didn't want to use that today just in case anybody wanted to go ahead and replicate the card and they couldn't get hold of that set. So I thought what I would do is take some of the elements from this card and create a new scene for you. So I really like these big snowflakes in the background. I'd got a couple of snowflake dies I hadn't used, some that I had, so I wanted to make sure that I use them this year. But I also wanted to produce a card for you with stuff, with supplies that are not from this year. I know people really like to see cards that are made with older supplies. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to use this set from W+9. This is called Holiday Houses. Now I've had this set over 2 years, and I think it came out maybe about a year before I got it. So this has been out for some time and I haven't used it a lot actually. I've only used it a couple of times last year. So I thought today would be a really good opportunity to use that set again, and I do have the coordinating dies for that. So that's what I will use to start my scene. And then I've got 3 snowflakes here. This is the Joy snowflake from Simon Says Stamp, the RINA snowflake from Simon Says Stamp, and this is a little set called SNOWFLAKE, also from Simon Says Stamp. So you don't need these exact snowflakes, you can see what you've got in your stash, but those are the ones that I chose to use on my card today. I've also got a Nina Solar Crest £110 top folding base card, and just a panel of £80 Nina there as well, that I'm going to be doing some ink blending on that. And I wanted to show you that you don't actually need to use more than one colour on a background. You can still achieve a really good, kind of ombre look on a background, even with one Oxide or distressing, whatever you've got to hand. I'm going to use Oxide today. So I'm going to be blending my background with that. So I've got the tumbled glass Oxide. I've got some of this Imagine Sparkle Shimmer Spritz Spray. I never remember quite what it's called. Sheer Shimmer Spritz, I think, in Sparkle. I've got some spray adhesive here. That's just for my die cuts that I'm going to adhere down. Some Memento Tuxedo Black. And I will possibly use some Stardust Stickles just to give it a little of extra glitter, but I'm not 100% sure about that yet. And I have actually gone ahead and pre-cut my dies here, so I'm not spending time doing that whilst I'm filming. So I've got all those ready, and I've got some of the images. I'm not sure which house I'm going to use yet, so they're already stamped up and ready to go. And finally, you might have noticed I haven't got a sentiment at this stage. I'm not quite sure which sentiment I'm going to use. I'm going to play around with the design a little bit and just see how I want to place things before I make a final decision on my sentiment. I think it's possible I'm going to use this Mama Elephant Jingle Greetings, but I don't know whether that's going to quite work with the design. So I thought I'd show you my process of how I go ahead and decide which sentiment to put where, and hopefully this card will turn out nice. So let's get started. I'm going to start off with the ink blended panel because I want to spray that a bit later and let that dry. So what I'm going to do is take the tumbled glass Oxide, and I'm just going to start blending that from the top to about 2/3 of the way down. And obviously I've sped this up quite a lot here. It did take me maybe 5 minutes to blend this panel. So I just kept working in layers, making sure that I didn't press as heavily down towards the bottom third of the panel. And I did add quite a lot of layers onto the top third of it. So you can see that you get a really nice ombre blend even with just one ink, just literally by adding layer after layer. And just making sure that you don't press quite as heavily as you move down the card. I keep stopping and looking at it, seeing if it needs a little bit more, and then eventually I get to a place where I'm happy with it. I heat set the panel to make sure it was dry, and then I took it to my box and I sprayed it about 3 times with the Shimmer Spritz spray just to make sure it was nice and sparkly, and I left that to dry. I have to apologise here, I didn't have my camera on when I coloured the trees, but I have put the numbers up on the screen so that you could see them. But they were really quick to colour, very simple colouring. I just did a little bit of blending on them, but they are small, so there is a limit to how much blending you can actually do on them. And I'm going to put some music on while I colour. I'm going to put all the numbers up on the screen so that you can see what I'm using. But what I do is I colour the main house in 4 different browns, E55, 53, 51 and 50. And at the end I don't think it looks dark enough, so I actually recolour that image by adding in a E57. So you'll see that, but I'll put on some music for now and then I'll be back at the end of the colouring. So you'll see me here playing around with the design a little bit. I decided to put the house and the trees sort of just under halfway down the card and put the snowflakes around it. When I first thought about the card, I thought I might put the house and the trees further down towards the right, which is why I wasn't sure what sentiment I was going to use. But as I was playing around with it, I thought they sat really nice in the centre of the card with the snowflakes all around. And of course that left me that white area at the bottom for me to go ahead and use the sentiment that I showed you earlier. So I'm going to go ahead now and just stick everything down. I thought I would stick the house flat onto the panel, so I just used some multimedia matte to adhere that down. And then I added some foam tape onto the back of the trees, and I've decided to just pop those up so that we get a little bit of dimension on the card, not too much. It's just those trees that end up being popped up. I've got the snowflakes to the left there. I've already sprayed these with the spray adhesive. I popped them in my box and took them to a ventilated area before I used that adhesive. And I've just brought them back, and I'm just going to start placing them around the house and the trees, just making sure that I press them firmly down onto the panel to make sure all the little bits are stuck down. I decided that I didn't want any of them standing up at all. I really wanted them to be flat on the panel. I really like how they turned out. I think the light background really suits the snowflakes, and then you've got the bright pop of colour with the house and the trees. I think it goes together really well, or at least I think it does. I hope that you agree. So I've just finished those off, and I'm just going to go ahead now and just trim off the excess where the snowflakes are hanging over the edge of the card. And of course at this point, in true Lisa style, I realise I haven't put my sentiment on, so I popped the panel into the Misty and I took the Mama Elephant Jingle Greetings set, the sentiment from the bottom of the set, and I stamped that on with VersaFine Onyx Black, and I was lucky, it worked out okay. Even though the trees are popped up, there isn't loads of dimension on this card, so it did actually stamp down okay, and I did double stamp it to make sure that it was really nice and crisp. To finish the card off, I put some double-sided tape onto the back, not before dropping it onto my VersaFine ink pad. Fortunately it was the back of the panel, so anyway I've removed the backing tape from there and I've just pressed that down onto a card base, and I go ahead and I decide to add the stickles on at this point. So these are the Stardust stickles from Ranger, and I run some over the roof, the chimney, and I just add little dots onto the trees. There's lots of sparkle on this card. You can't see it on the camera at all, but you've got a really lovely sparkle on the background from the shimmer spritz, and then the little dots of stickles just look so pretty in the light. So there you go, that's the card for today. I really hope that you enjoyed seeing how it came together. I will list all the supplies in the description below and over at my blog in case you're interested. I will be back with a card soon, but please do hit the subscribe button if you'd like to see more. Give the video a thumbs up, and I hope to see you again soon.